You see that minivan pulling out of the driveway? Air conditioning blasting, kids in the back watching movies on their tablets, GPS guiding them to their destination with turn-by-turn directions? Let me tell you something. That is not how we did family vacations. When I was a kid, a family road trip wasn't just a way to get somewhere. It was an adventure, and I'm not talking about the good kind of adventure. I'm talking about the kind where you questioned whether you'd even make it to your destination alive. For the next 20 minutes, I'm going to take you back to what family vacations were really like in the 1960s through the 1980s. And I promise you, by the end of this, you'll never complain about a long car ride again. Because back then, we didn't just travel, we survived. Let's start with the vehicle itself, the family station wagon. Now, when I say station wagon, I want you to picture something. It's long, it's boat-like, it's got fake wood paneling on the sides, and it is absolutely, positively, the least cool vehicle ever invented. But for families in the 60s, 70s, and early 80s, this was your chariot. This was what got you from point A to point B. Assuming, of course, that it didn't break down along the way. Let me paint you a picture of what it was like inside one of these things. First of all, the seats. Vinyl. Everything was vinyl. And if you don't remember vinyl seats in the summer, let me refresh your memory. You'd get in the car wearing shorts. Your bare legs would hit that vinyl. And it was like sitting on the surface of the sun. That vinyl had been baking in the summer heat for hours, and now your thighs were paying the price. You'd peel yourself off those seats and the backs of your legs would have that waffle pattern pressed into them. You looked like you'd been branded. And don't even get me started on the seat belts. You know why? Because there weren't any. Not in the back, anyway. Kids today are strapped into car seats until they're practically in high school. Back then, we were rolling around in the back of that station wagon like loose cargo. In fact, the best seat in the whole car was what we called the way back. That rear-facing seat in the very back of the station wagon. You'd climb back there, sit facing backwards, and wave at all the cars behind you. No seatbelt, no car seat, just you, your siblings, and the hope that Dad didn't have to brake suddenly. Today, if you put a kid back there, Child Protective Services would be at your door before you made it out of the driveway. Back then, that was the premium seat. Kids would fight over who got to sit back there. But here's the thing that really separated the men from the boys. The tough from the weak. The survivors from the quitters. No air conditioning. Now, some of you are thinking, come on, they had air conditioning in cars back then. Sure, some cars had it. But your family station wagon, the one your dad bought used in 1973, that thing had what we called 460 air conditioning. 4 windows down, 60 miles per hour. That was it. That was your cooling system. So picture this. It's July. It's 95 degrees outside. You're on Interstate 80, heading to some national park your parents saw in a brochure. And all 4 windows are cranked down. Because yes, you had to manually crank them down with a handle. The wind is whipping through the car like a tornado. Your mom's hair is going everywhere. The map is flapping around. Someone's lost their hat out the window. And Dad is just gripping that steering wheel, sweating through his shirt, pretending like everything is fine. And you know what we did? We just dealt with it. We hung our arms out the window. We let the wind blast us in the face. We arrived at our destination looking like we'd been through a wind tunnel. Today's kids don't know how good they've got it. Dual zone climate control, heated seats, remote start so the car is already cool before you even get in. Back then, getting into a hot car was like entering a sauna. You'd open the door and a wave of heat would hit you in the face. The steering wheel was too hot to touch. Dad would have to use a towel just to drive. But we survived, because that's what we did. Now let's talk about the second biggest challenge of any family road trip. Navigation, or as I like to call it, the Great Map Wars. See, today you've got GPS, you've got Google Maps, you've got that nice lady's voice telling you exactly where to turn and when. In 500 feet, turn right. Back then, you had a paper map, and if you've never tried to navigate with a paper map while sitting in a moving vehicle, let me tell you, it's harder than it looks. First of all, these maps were huge. You'd unfold one and it would take up the entire front seat. It was like trying to read a tablecloth while driving down the highway. And here's how it would go down in every family. Dad's driving. He's in charge of getting us there. But Dad refuses to actually look at the map while he's driving, so that job falls to Mom. Mom's sitting in the passenger seat, wrestling with this massive map that refuses to fold back the way it came. She's trying to figure out where we are, where we're going, and how to get there. Okay, honey, we need to take exit 47. Which exit are we at now? I don't know, I can't see the signs. Well, look at the map. I am looking at the map. And then there's silence. Tense, angry silence. The kind of silence where us kids in the back knew to keep our mouths shut. Because getting lost wasn't just an inconvenience. It was a disaster. There was no recalculating route. There was no typing in a new address. Once you were lost, you were lost. You were on your own. And you know what Dad had to do? Stop and ask for directions. Now, this was a big deal, because dads did not like to stop and ask for directions. It was a point of pride. Real men didn't need help. Real men could figure it out themselves. But after driving in circles for an hour, after Mom suggesting for the 15th time that maybe we should stop somewhere, Dad would finally give in. Fine, we'll stop at the next gas station. So we'd pull into some gas station in the middle of nowhere. Dad would go inside, talk to the guy behind the counter, and come back out with directions scribbled on a napkin. Okay, he said, we need to go back about 5 miles, take a left at the old barn, and then keep going until we see a big rock. Then we'll know we're close. A big rock. That's what we were navigating by. A big rock. Half the time, we'd follow these directions and end up even more lost than before. Today, you type in an address and your phone tells you exactly how to get there. It shows you traffic. It shows you alternate routes. It warns you about accidents ahead. Back then, you just hoped you were going the right way. You navigated by landmarks, by gut feeling, by prayer. And that map, that impossibly large, impossible to fold map, by the end of the trip, it was destroyed, ripped, crumpled, shoved under the seat. It looked like it had been through a war, because it had. Which brings me to the next part of the classic family road trip, where you stayed, the Roadside Motel. Now today, you can go online and book a hotel room in about 3 minutes. You can see pictures of the room. You can read reviews from other travelers. You can see exactly what you're getting before you pay a dime. Back then, you took your chances. You'd be driving along some highway, it's getting dark, and you'd start looking for a place to stay, and you'd just watch for the signs. Motel, vacancy. That vacancy sign was the most beautiful thing you could see after a long day of driving. Because if you saw no vacancy, you had to keep driving, and nobody wanted to keep driving. So Dad would pull into this roadside motel. You'd all pile out of the car, legs stiff, backs aching, and Dad would go into the little office to get a room. And let me tell you about these rooms. They were simple. We're talking 2 double beds, a small TV that got about 3 channels, a bathroom the size of a closet, and carpet that you did not want to look at too closely. But to us kids, it was an adventure. It was exciting. Because of one thing. The magic fingers. You remember magic fingers? That little box attached to the bed that you'd put a quarter in, and the whole bed would vibrate for 15 minutes. That was entertainment. We thought that was the height of luxury. You'd put your quarter in, and that bed would start shaking and rattling, and we thought we were staying in a 5-star resort. Today's kids have no idea. They're staying in hotels with swimming pools, breakfast buffets, and Wi-Fi throughout. Back then, if the motel had a pool, it was a cloudy rectangle in the parking lot that nobody wanted to swim in. And the amenities? A little bar of soap about the size of your thumb, wrapped in paper. That was it. No shampoo, no conditioner, no lotion. Just that one tiny bar of soap that would dissolve before you even finished washing your hands. The towels were thin and scratchy. The TV remote was attached to the nightstand with a cord, if there even was a remote. Usually you had to get up and manually change the channel. But you know what? We didn't care, because we were on vacation. We were somewhere new, and that little roadside motel felt like an adventure. Compare that to today. Families pull up to a Marriott or a Holiday Inn. They've got their reservation confirmed on their phone. They know exactly what the room looks like. They've already checked in online. They walk into a room with comfortable beds, flat-screen TVs, air conditioning that actually works, and a bathroom that doesn't make you want to keep your shoes on. It's predictable, it's reliable, it's comfortable, but is it an adventure? That's up for debate. Now let's talk about the thing that every parent today dreads. The thing that can make or break a long car ride. Keeping the kids entertained. Today's kids have it easy. Every child has their own screen. iPads, tablets, phones, built-in DVD players in the car. They can watch movies, play games, listen to music. They're in their own little entertainment bubbles. You know what we had? The view out the window. And our imaginations. That was IT. That was the entertainment system. And you know what? We made it work. We had games. First there was I Spy, the classic. Someone would pick something they could see and say, I spy with my little eye. Something that is blue. And everyone else would have to guess what it was. This game could go on for hours. Because when you're driving through the middle of nowhere, there's not a lot to spy. Is it the sky? Yes? Okay, my turn. Then there was the license plate game. The goal was to spot license plates from as many different states as possible. We'd keep a list. We'd get so excited when we saw a plate from somewhere far away. Look, Alaska! We got Alaska! Today's kids would look at you like you'd lost your mind. You got excited about a license plate? Yes. Yes, we did. Because that was the game. That was the fun. And then, when we got really bored, we'd just annoy our siblings. Mom, he's touching me. I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you. Mom, he's on my side. Am not. R2. This would go on until Dad would finally reach his limit and yell from the front seat, If I have to pull this car over, you're all in trouble. And we'd be quiet. For about 5 minutes. Then it would start all over again. But here's the thing. Here's what all that boredom, all that fighting, all that staring out the window actually did. It made us present. It made us part of the journey. We watched the landscape change. We saw America pass by outside our windows. We noticed things. We talked to each other. Well, when we weren't fighting. Today's kids can travel from New York to California and never look up from their screens. They miss entire states because they're watching a movie. Is that better? Is that worse? I don't know. It's just different. But I'll tell you this. We remembered those trips. We remembered the weird roadside attractions, the world's largest ball of twine, the dinosaur statues at that rest stop in South Dakota, the restaurant that looked like a giant teepee. We remembered because we were bored enough to pay attention. There's something to be said for that. Now, let's talk about food. Because eating on a road trip in the 70s was its own special experience. Today you can pull off at any exit and find every chain restaurant you can imagine. McDonald's, Wendy's, Chick-fil-A, Chipotle. You've got options. Back then, you got what you got. A lot of times, Mom would pack sandwiches. We'd stop at a rest area, one of those picnic areas along the highway, and we'd eat lunch sitting at a concrete table while trucks roared past on the interstate. Those sandwiches had been sitting in a cooler in the hot car for hours. The bread was soggy, the cheese was warm, but you ate it because that's what there was. Or we'd stop at some local diner, someplace with a name like Mabel's or the Junction Cafe. You'd walk in, and there'd be a counter with spinning stools, vinyl booths, and a menu that had been laminated sometime in 1963. You'd order a burger and fries. It would come out on a plate so heavy you could barely lift it. The burger would be the size of your head, and it would be delicious, because it was real food, made by real people, not some chain following a corporate recipe. Today, every Applebee's tastes the same. Every McDonald's is identical. You know exactly what you're getting. Back then, you were taking a chance, and usually it was worth it. So let's bring this all together. Let's talk about what family vacations were really like then versus now. Back then, the journey was the destination. Getting there was half the adventure, sometimes more than half. You'd leave home and you wouldn't know exactly what was going to happen. You might get lost. You might end up at some weird motel. You might discover some amazing little restaurant in the middle of nowhere. It was unpredictable. It was uncomfortable. It was sometimes downright miserable. But it was memorable. Today, travel is easier than it's ever been. You can book everything online. You can see reviews. You can know exactly what to expect. GPS gets you there without a wrong turn. Cars are comfortable, quiet, efficient. You can fly across the country in 5 hours and arrive barely aware that you've traveled at all. Is that better? In a lot of ways, yes. It's faster, it's more comfortable, it's less stressful. But something's been lost too. That feeling of adventure, that sense of discovery. The stories that came from things going wrong. Because let me tell you, the best vacation stories aren't about the trips that went perfectly. They're about the disasters. The time we got lost and ended up at that bizarre tourist trap. The motel with the broken air conditioner. The restaurant where nobody spoke English and we had no idea what we'd ordered. Those are the stories we tell. Those are the memories that stick. Today's kids will remember their vacations differently. They'll remember the destinations, the theme parks, the attractions, the hotel pools. But will they remember the journey? Will they remember what it felt like to travel? I don't know. Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe having a smooth, comfortable, predictable trip is better than the chaos we dealt with. But I'll tell you this. When I think back on those family road trips crammed in that hot station wagon with my siblings, fighting over the last sandwich, watching Dad try to read a map while driving, I smile. Because those weren't just vacations. Those were experiences. We didn't just go places. We traveled. We saw the country from ground level. We dealt with breakdowns and detours and dead ends. We learned to be patient, to be flexible, to make the best of situations. And we learned that sometimes the best part of getting where you're going is everything that happens along the way. Today you can get from New York to Los Angeles in 5 hours on a plane. You'll arrive fresh, rested, ready to go. Back then, that same trip would take you a week in a car. You'd arrive exhausted, cranky, and swearing you'd never do it again. But you would, because that's what families did. So here's my question for you. What do you remember about family vacations? Do you remember the paper maps, the roadside motels, the endless car rides with nothing to do but look out the window? Or are you part of the generation that grew up with GPS, air conditioning, and a DVD player in the back seat? Either way, I hope you got good memories. Because whether it was easy or hard, comfortable or miserable, fast or slow, those trips, those vacations, those journeys with your family, those are the moments that stick with you. Those are the stories you tell. And honestly, whether you got there in a vinyl-seated station wagon with no air conditioning, or in a climate-controlled minivan with Wi-Fi, what matters is that you got there together. Thanks for watching. If this brought back memories, share this with someone who remembers those old family road trips. And hey, maybe the next time you take a trip, try something. Turn off the GPS for an hour, put the screens away, roll down the windows. See what happens when the journey becomes part of the adventure again. Who knows? You might just make a memory worth telling. Retry.